Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. I just had a failed to go live. I wonder if that's a reflection on me. But yes, but we seem to have started, and that's all good. Joined so far by Patrick, just back from China, and Mark and Randall, who are from Kendall. Sorry, I'm going to have to read the name of your company, Delta Z. And I'm going to start with you guys. I've got a whole host of stories to look at later. But the first thing I'd like to see, Mark, if you'd like to get it out now, please, you had it earlier, is the propeller from the Kittyhawk Cora. You're the designer. We had a chat about that, and then you came in the chat and said you're the bloke that designed the propeller, and there it is.
I did. So it's actually not the Kittyhawk Cora. It's the Z Arrow, which was the precursor to it.
Okay.
But it's the same propeller, same design, used by both groups. And as it turned out, Larry Page had the idea to, unbeknownst to each other, had two parallel ventures going on, and whoever won out is the one that he would carry on with, and that ended up being the Kittyhawk. So a lot of movement going on there. Apparently, a lot of the Z Arrow guys moved on to go head up the Uber flying car.
Oh, I heard today a chap, the head of science from Uber on the wireless, and he said they'll be flying in, where was it? He said in 2020 they'll be operating in Los Angeles. And I thought, good luck, mate. You know, he actually said they're going to be operating commercially by 2020. That's amazeballs, absolutely amazing.
Well, they've made a lot of progress, and that's when I tried to get in last time and my browser didn't accept Hangouts. I was saying that they're clearly very well funded. Larry Page was actually upstairs in the floor above us when we were doing the work, and wow. It was quite secret at the time. He was only known as Gus, the guy upstairs, and that was his hangout there in Mountain View.
Wow. Now, come on, tell us a little bit about that propeller. You can't just put it back down on there, because when I saw it and I was commenting, you said you designed it. I was saying, God, that doesn't look very efficient. That looks rubbish. And you quickly said it's not rubbish. So tell me why it's not rubbish.
It's actually the original vehicle had 8 lifting fans. It's a 4-bladed fan. Let me grab a couple more here.
He's going to put them all together for you.
That's fantastic.
I have hundreds of pictures, but I'm kind of bound to not.
Sure. Yeah. Obviously, don't get yourself in trouble with Gus.
But with Gus, right? So the purpose. Oh, these are too backward. There we go. They click into each other. There's a central hub, and then the contribution that I made was the design of the hub, and the fact that it's a 4-bladed. It's a flying ceiling fan. It puts out about 110 pounds of thrust per fan, and there were 8 fans per vehicle. I've got the spares I'm going to make. I actually am going to make a ceiling fan out of the spares.
Fantastic. So. And then the blade itself, why is it so short? Is that because it was going to be around people and you don't want huge?
So the initial design of the aircraft was to have 8 of these fans horizontally, and they were going to be within the airfoil shape of the wing. They were going to sit within the airfoil shape, and so the laminar flow was going to go over it once the plane transitioned into forward flight. And so they just needed small lifting fans just to get it up there vertically. And then I also made the pusher props on the back, which are more conventional saber-shaped blades.
So does that just happen aerodynamically then? Once you hit a certain forward speed, the airflow breaks?
The airflow goes over and obscures or hides the propellers, or the propellers are hidden within the airflow, so they're not just induced drag.
And what sort of drop in efficiency? I mean, that must have been where the real secret sauce was, wasn't it? Making sure that you got all the distances right there and all that sort of thing.
Yes, I'm sure that was. That was all headed up by the chief aerodynamicist was Elon Crew from Stanford University, and he's one of the big creators and pushers behind the blended wing shapes for Boeing and all these other big Delta wing blended blended fuselage shapes. So that's him predominantly. But a lot of the guys that were running that group were very talented. They're all from MIT and Stanford and other places, and it was actually right at the Google, on the fence of the Google campus there between Google and NASA Ames. But I was doing these.
Is that where, do they share a fence? Is that really where they are for those of us that aren't there?
Yeah, no, they're right next to each other. They're, in fact, within walking distance there. There's also Cisco. All the bigger companies there in Mountain View. The rent is horrendous there. It's something like $110 a square foot per month. So,
so is it? So is there really? I'll get Patrick to speak to this as well. Is there really innovation and excitement there, or is it bull dust? Where are we at with that? Is it really pushing things forward, or is it just PR? I
don't know. I think if you have enough money involved, then you're bound to get somewhere. And look at Elon Musk and these other guys. But beyond doing the propeller stuff, I don't have a whole lot to do with them. We live in Tucson, Arizona. We're in Tucson, Arizona. Actually, Kendall's from San Antonio, Texas. He does work with me as well. But I was literally building these out of my garage initially. So I built 70 sets of them.
So how do Google find you? How do they get to you then?
You know, I come from the darker side of aerospace, and I mostly worked classified programs. So it's kind of odd that they even found me. If people find me, I don't advertise. So.
That's very good. And people avoid Patrick. That's the other thing that happens. So Patrick, what do you reckon to all of this then?
What, the flying car thing? Or?
Yeah, flying cars, and is innovation really happening at Mountain View?
Well, I mean, you know, I concur with the notion that if you throw enough money at something, anything is possible. And, you know, I don't know, people talk about the flying car thing, and it's kind of glommed onto the UTM thing. I don't see it by 2020. And people ask me, you know, hey, would you ride a flying car? And I said, well, you know, nothing that's uncertified, but I will. I'm willing to buy tickets for people. I have a long list of folks I'd buy tickets for a ride.
I agree with that.
Well, I think that thing they've got going, that Casey Neistat and or various other people have flown, that little thing. I mean, that looks like a little bit of fun, and I could make use of it here. It's not much better than a boat, though. And a boat, I could carry a lot more beer in it. But it's a bit of fun, isn't it? I heard another interesting thing on the wireless today. Volvo reckon by 2040, only 14% of vehicles will be autonomous in any way. And I thought that was interesting. If a car maker's saying that, you know, it's not the big ticket. You know, everybody will be in flying cars, fully autonomous, as well as autonomous delivery vans next year, according to everything else we read.
Yeah, even the driverless car thing. You know, if you look at it, it's kind of a funny thing. You know, physics is not big here in Northern California when you're looking for funding. But you know, because we're operating in a 2D environment with the driverless cars, and or automatic cars, whatever you want to call them. The people that have invested in that have invested so much money that they're just still full steam ahead. But you can see that the technology has issues. The AI is not quite there where the car can make decisions on its own. You know, like we witnessed with the guy watching TV, and you know that woman got hit in by the driverless car, whatever. You know, it kind of seems like some of this stuff gets pushed to the wayside. But when that happens in a 3D environment, you know, it's going to come down on people, and then you're going to have innocent people get, let's say, in harm's way, which is the same with the UTM, and the two. All this stuff is kind of being grouped together. You know, people talk about boiling the ocean, but it's just like, you know, we're just on to the next unicorn, the next magical thing, and these are huge problems that need to be fixed, or let's say, understood and overcome before it's mainstreamed.
Yeah.
I'm with Patrick too, as far as just I'll watch somebody else get in it first. If you look at most of the experienced fighter jet pilots, most of the aircraft now are the pilot only gets a vote on what the aircraft is going to do, and that makes everybody uneasy.
Well, I got to warn you. When you agree with me, you'll alienate folks because I'm like, not that I don't love snake oil. I love snake oil. Sprinkle it on my cereal. It's great. But, it's just like, come on, man, put your feet on the ground here. This Uber thing with they're building the buildings with the trees hanging off of them. And, it's like you still have to drive, on the heavy freeway to get to some infrastructure that hasn't been built yet. So I can take, this flying car thing that's not certified to get somewhere else. It's like, and then I saw the numbers. They were like, well, we'll have, anywhere from, 150 flights to 400 flights an hour. And that'll be X amount of people to 4,000 people an hour, blah, blah, blah. And, times $5. And then I even tweeted back. I'm like, is, Tommy Chong working the numbers over there for you guys or what? I just don't see this working.
Yeah, but we've had the means to fly from rooftops since the late 30s. And
what do they call that, Gary?
What do they call them? I call those something. There's a name for them, isn't there? There is a name for them. And I believe somebody sits in the front and drives, and you can have like 10 people down the back. And I think they're certified, but obviously have to, I have to stand corrected on that. But that hasn't taken
a wet blanket over here with this certificated pilot and an aircraft thing.
You're right, Patrick.
Well, that's just how I don't know. I think, if we could put together, we had the money, and I went over to Bell Helicopter and I said, hey, you know what? I got this kooky idea where I want to do urban mobility, and I want to buy 3,000 helicopters. Could you give me a deal? I could probably work out a deal on the phone with the guy if I was going to buy 3,000 of them or something. But, and the infrastructure's there. You're still got to drive to the airport. But anyway, I don't want to sound like a wet blanket. It's a great idea. That Uber car looks, God, that thing looks great. I'll take two.
I'm in the wait and see mode. So.
Right. Well, let me ask you one other question. You guys, you've seen that flying motorcycle thing?
I'm back in the room. You can keep going without me. It's all right.
All right. Well, we were talking about the flying motorcycle, I think it's in Dubai or something.
I definitely fly on that. Oh, definitely.
Well, the thing to me is that what's kind of funny is like the whole helmet at that point is like superfluous,
You want little helmets for your knees, don't you? It's
yeah. Oh, well, we wanted the head to not be beat up when we put it in the coffin, but I don't, or we'd identified the pilot, I don't.
Kind of like throwing a frog in a blender.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So,
and wouldn't you know it'd be the police department that wants it, the same police department that drives Lamborghinis and everything else, right?
Well, Saudi, again, on the wireless today, Saudi Arabia have just given citizenship to a robot. And that opens up all sorts of thoughts, doesn't it? But it makes fantastic copy. It's in the newspapers and TV all around the world, and that's what people want, isn't it, at the end of the day? So, well, let's sort of continue on down the line of flights of fancy. Facebook, they've given up. They've given up with Aquila, with their internet streaming drone. Now, the only reason that sort of registers with me is because it was being built in a town called Bridgewater, not far away from where I grew up. So it was British innovation, but it was half the team that made the Zephyr, and of course Zephyr's won out on that. But yeah, do you know Gordon Ramsay, the shouty TV chef who swears a lot? he grew up in Bridgewater as well, so that's its other claim to fame. And he had a cellophane factory there with a huge chimney, and it stank. So locals called it Smelly Town. So now you know everything you need to know about Bridgewater. But Facebook, why have they given up?
Let me count the ways, but first off, it's a perpetual motion machine. I mean, I was interviewed, it was like Fox Business or something, about this idea of having these pseudo satellites and beaming internet into places like India or Africa. And yeah, the business model looks great, but I mean, was it India that said, no, we don't want the free Facebook, or was that Africa?
And Africa and India, yeah. Thanks.
We don't want. We're good. We don't want your free internet. But it's a perpetual motion machine, and even the Titan and some of the other stuff, and even Zephyr. I know other people have pointed to Zephyr as the success story, but you remember, I mean, that was part of the project that I was on in 2010 and flew at Yuma. And it's 2018. Where's the product, man? Why is it not flying?
There are some flying. There are some dark ones flying. Yeah, there are
dark ones.
Yeah.
And are they perpetual motion machines? How long of an endurance do we have?
I don't think we're allowed to know that now. I don't think we're allowed to know, but I believe it's somewhere in the order of 6 months. So it's not perpetual motion. They will come down, but it's still a long time. And Bruce we're not to worry. He's watching and oozing fluids at the same time. And I think that's perhaps more detail than we need, Uncle Bruce. Did you see, we saw the propeller, Bruce, ask questions about the magical, mythical propeller. And Bruce, in fact, is our test pilot for that Cora, because he's in New Zealand. So we're going to send him first.
You should buy the first ticket.
Or run camera on.
All right, him and Ron. Yeah, absolutely. Draw the short straws. Let's have that on a video, Bruce. Let's have this drawing of the straws. Yes, it's they're not making quite so many claims about that down there as they seem to be doing in America, but we'll see. So we think that at Facebook, it just was too expensive. And the thing I love is that Google Loon, everyone laugh if you will, but they've been plodding away. They've had a flight in the air now constantly for at least 3 years. So that the data that they've got from the upper atmosphere far exceeds what anybody else has got. And their ability to maneuver those things, come with my balloon driver's hat on, hot air balloon driver's hat on, is quite staggering, where they maneuver and think ahead around the world. So that, yeah, I mean, I know it's a tortoise and a hare, isn't it? And I kind of like the fact that the hare's winning at the moment. A tortoise even's winning at the moment.
Well, that is with your balloon driver's hat on. It's hard to put a free balloon where you want it. It's also, they're helium. When you vent gas, it's gone and lost forever. You can't put it back in the bag. And so those are some of the issues with that. But it seems like they're getting around that. But it is a difficult thing to do. So that the project is still going on this long, I say it's a hats off thing from my perspective.
Yeah, I think so. And just the data they've got, the upper atmosphere data must be like nobody else's upper atmosphere data, which is it's very. So if anyone knows where to put those HAPS solutions, it's them now. They'll know which bits of the atmosphere works very well, and they could probably just sell that data to Airbus. And that, of course, is where all of this is going. Airbus is, I can't remember what they call their project, where they're sewing it all together. But I'm not sure it's going to last too long. I don't know if you've got any. I think that's being run from America, isn't it, Patrick?
I'm not sure. You said, remember, who was it? Lockheed had the airship that they were going to put up there at the high altitude, and remember it kind of crashed. There's been a lot of attempts. It's hard to do, and again, there's the engineering, the physics, and all the other stuff that goes with that. So it's hard. Maybe that was part of it with Facebook, with some of the frustration. There wasn't really instant gratification. I don't know. I did get a list of the people that are on the new deck, and somebody from Facebook is listed on there as one of the participants. So this must all kind of
I thought it's very telling that they are keeping an oar in the water to talk to the World Radio Council about spectrum issues for ongoing HAPs and other things. And that really is the elephant in the, I keep saying it, but it is the elephant in the RPAS room, is we haven't really got any protected spectrum. So it doesn't matter what you do. You know, rolling out.
That elephant's long in the tooth, though, you know, because, I mean, you've been around for a long time. I've been around for a long time. And every time the elephant kind of pokes its trunk under the circus tent there, people are like, oh, get out of here. You know, we've got this certification or airspace integration thing, and we just don't even want to look at that elephant. You know, but
right. So what frequency are these RPA going to be operating on that's protected? Where is this mythical frequency? You know, it's
well, that's one of the issues, I think, going into the UTM thing. That's just kind of, you know, we got the horse blinder on. It's like, who's, you know, I mean, who's talking to what? Is it secure? Is it, you know, certified? Is it reliable? You know, what do you? Don't bother us with those damn details.
Well, Hobby King.
We don't like details here. We got a cell phone app. You know?
Well, Hobby King and Co will be, yeah, they'll be looking at their fine that's coming and the others that are coming down the way. I did ask Bruce. I did ask the man from the FCC to come on. And he very politely declined, but they may come on in the future. That's the man that's handing out all the fines. So it'd be great if they do come on, because you know, I'm not anti their. We people are flying things using frequencies that are very close to other stuff, treading on all sorts of other people, and it's not cricket. It's just not on. and you can understand those end users getting very upset, the other end users, and it's only going to get worse as bits of 5.8 and other frequencies are given away to other vehicle to vehicle and other things. This isn't getting better, and a lot of people in our world don't realize that we are operating in borrowed and shared space. Which we shouldn't be. But anyway.
You also get an awful lot of people that just don't even care about the regulations and use whatever frequency they feel like. So
absolutely. Absolutely.
Like Bruce talks about, and we believe in conservation, and why throw spurious energy out there when it's not necessary? You know, you don't need 20 watts. What you need is a highly sensitive receiver. You know?
Absolutely. Unless you need to heat your aeroplane, of course. If you need to heat your aeroplane as well, you know.
we just aim our laser up there and jiffy pop the damn thing.
We're just scattering electrons in.
Did you do an information request? Yes, I did, Bruce, about the numbers of complaints lodged with the FCC by other 5.8 gigs users. Yeah, I did, Bruce, and that's still in the pipeline, as it were. But I'm sure if they dare to come on, they will come up with some fair and valid arguments.
I think if they do, they'd probably come on with, like, you know, the garbage bag over their head with the eye holes. You know, yeah, exactly. The unknown regulator, you know, because you know, they'll get on there and people will be like, what? They'll get their minds blown, and, you know, oh my God, what a jerk that guy is. Doesn't he know I want to go fly, you know?
So I'm interested in seeing who's actually going to be issuing these fines, because we had, for example, if somebody wants to use 433 megahertz here, you have to have a license, but you can go broadcast great distances with these things, and people are doing it with or without any licensing. We went out and did a flight demo out in Japan. We went to a demo in front of University of Tokyo, and we took our airplane over there. I don't know if you've run across this yet, but we took one of our airplanes out there to do a demo for them, and we had a Tyrannus radio in there, and we were pumping out what, 2 watts
On the Tyrannus, no, 100 milliwatt.
No, on some of the other video, we're pumping out a 100 milliwatt and then a 1 watt for the video, and they said no, you can't do that at all. That would be illegal. So, so we had to go down to the local hobby shop and buy a Futaba radio that only put out 20 milliwatts.
No, it was 10 milliwatt.
Yeah, it was 20, but it was either way. We were worried about literally getting off the end of the runway and losing connectivity there. And I said, I think we ought to just fly with the radios we have. What's going to happen? Is the frequency police going to come with sirens blaring? And they said, yes, very much.
And there's Gary in Africa on the wireless. Where's my BBC?
Exactly. Yes, that's right. He's on HF. You got to listen on HF. It sounds so much better in HF.
Yeah, and we even used the 5.8 video. We had to completely turn it off. So fortunately, we're skilled pilots, so we can fly by line of sight.
And fortunately, the flying area they gave us was only the length of the runway and not much wider than the runway.
Yeah.
Well, the runway was also a World War II zero.
It was old zero base on the beach, but yeah, they're so limited on space and they're limited on frequency that it was just amazing. You would think that Japan is the most hooked up country, one of the most hooked up countries in the world, and the Wi-Fi at the hotels don't extend much beyond the lobbies. They're so limited in power.
Yeah, but as you said, it's not all about power and more power. It's about the receiver sensitivity and about antennas and all that good sort of thing. That's actually a nice little segue into ground control stations and things like that. Do you guys deal with that as well, don't you, over there? You had some thoughts on that?
That's my area of expertise, actually. We build a lot of ground control stations for command and control and streaming video. Most of the stuff that we do for our clients is in the ISM spectrum. So we keep our frequency separated. We use the command and control in the 900 megahertz. We do some 5.8 and some 1.2 in the past, but now I have equipment that we've developed that allows me to send streaming video, command and control, and telemetry all across one frequency, which is the 900 megahertz, 915 to 928.
That is significant range.
At a significant range.
And a significant bandwidth.
And yeah, so what sort of image resolution are we talking about there?
We ran 3 HD cameras, 1024 by 1080, simultaneously with command and control, and our bandwidth is about 130 megabit a second out to 26 miles.
Gosh.
Yeah. At 400 foot. That was at a 400 foot restriction.
Yeah.
And that limit was due to the curvature of the Earth, obviously.
Yeah. So that's standard HD, 3 standard HD. Is that 1080 or 720?
Well, it was 2 HD cameras, RunCam cameras, okay, RunCam Eagles, and one of our thermal imagers, which is a Tamarisk camera.
It's a 640.
It's a 640 by 480.
And Bruce is asking latency.
Latency, we were running anywhere as we increased range. At the 22 miles, we were running probably about 100 milliseconds.
Yes. And as a comparison, my old group at Raytheon Missile Systems just celebrated that they got 11 miles out of theirs. That's half the bandwidth. So,
and 9,000 times the price.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Wow, that's amazing. So, what do you call your ground? What do you call that? What is that, and where will people go to?
We call that system Z-Link. We also, and it's very modular. ZEELINQ. It's very modular. So, video is constantly changing. We've gone from MPEG 4 to H.264. Now we have H.265. And so we thought it was kind of foolish to embed a video system and 6 months later it changes. So we made the system very modular. Everything's Ethernet based and serial based. We have six UARTs on board that are user configurable to RS-232 for your payload to 485 or just TTL level.
And this is what autopilot? And this is nothing. So this is separate to the autopilot. Then, so the autopilot is doing its thing, and you've got a companion computer doing the video side of things.
Correct. It's actually just an embedded processor, usually a video processor. So we buy whatever is available at the moment for the video side that meets the customer requirements. One of the video boards we have right now is the 50 millimeter by 50 millimeter stacked deck, if you will, that provides an Ethernet interface as well as the graphic processor and as well as a dual port, so we can have two cameras running at the same time.
Part of our problem is we never know what the customer is going to be carrying. I build airframes. He does the GCS end of it. I build the airframes. And so I never know what the customer's end payload is going to be until they build it, whether it be LiDAR or it's a flying network hub or whatever. And so we just made it so that we can integrate with whichever system. And even the autopilots, we've run multiple autopilots from Lockheed Martin down to the Kittyhawk and everything in between.
And I'm just going to sound rude. On your website, I see I've forgotten the name of it now. I should look. It was but I see your airframe. Some might say it looks quite simple, but I would say that means it probably is quite effective. What sort of its size and what are the numbers of the airframe that you have on your site?
So that particular airframe is for a customer. It's a 124-inch wingspan, which is a little over 3 meters. And it's all up weight is, I'm going to give you English units. So the all up weight is 25 pounds or so. And with a 21 cc gas cylinder, twin cylinder gas engine, we're getting about 6 hours flight time. We're burning about 10 ounces of fuel per hour. And
are you using a twin engine to help with a little bit of the a twin cylinder to help with the vibration? Or?
So we were teamed up with a guy that here also in Arizona that is the North American rep for these engines, and he's the developer of these. He's got a very large range of small twin cylinders that nobody else has, and the vibration on them. And
very low
vibration on them. And so the unique feature of that particular airframe you're looking at is that the nose and belly drops out. I should go get one. The nose and belly.
I'll grab one.
The nose and belly drop out of it so that the payload can be swapped in seconds. So if you're running a LiDAR one time, you can drop out the belly and replace it with a IR camera or whatever other package you have sensor.
Now, having a normally aspirated motor, is that just because you're a petrol motor rather than electric? Is that because, like me, you're just an old duffer and you can't change? Or is it because you just can't beat it with electric?
I'm predominantly an electric. I'm a sailplane guy, but I'm predominantly an electric guy. And just the fact that you're having to carry these 5-kilo batteries that go nowhere when they're empty, and flight performance improves with the gas as you're burning it.
I think the market is going to come more towards, shall we say, traditional aircraft with a gas engine, just because BV loss is going to allow flights of lots of hours to happen, and that's what you're going to need. Electric's not going to cut it anymore.
All of our customers are always demanding more and more performance. So this is the top of the plane, and this is what we call the canoe.
Okay.
And
yeah,
that's swappable and changeable. So what this clicks up and locks in, and then one little latch locks in the entire canoe. So you can change this out at any time you like. I know it's kind of hard to see with this.
How do you make sure your customer doesn't really balk where he puts the payload in when he swaps it around? Doesn't put it too far back or too far forward?
There's a couple of features in that. The wing actually mounts on top here, and it bolts through, and it has 3 inches of slide adjustment for the CG, and we put a teeter-totter balancer on it where it's set for the CG, and you just slide the wing to where it balances and it locks down. So it takes about 10 seconds.
Because a lot of people tell me that the world's going VTOL because people are too stupid to fly aircraft. So it sounds to me like you've got to give quite a bit of training to your operators. You know,
So the VTOL training is even more rigorous. It's more demanding by a long stretch.
So you think that's simpler? Operating a normally aspirated fixed-wing aircraft is simpler than operating. I'm putting words into your mouth. Is it simpler than operating a VTOL?
Yes, I would say
that. Really? You can't say that. This is not what people want.
If you're looking at something like the Latitude, which is also here in Tucson, that's a big aircraft, and it's flying 4 big electrics that get it up vertically, and then it has a 70cc gas motor propelling it forward. It's still got a ways to go. They've been quite successful at it, but it's got a long ways to go before that's more mainstream. The last AUVSI, there was quite a few VTOL planes going. A lot of people think it's going that way, but it's a very expensive system and far more complicated to fly.
That's what I was trying to fish out for you. How dare you be on the same line of thinking as me? But yes, that's how very dare you. But yes, I think that as well. And I think somebody with just half an ounce of, you know, give them a week of RC model flying and show them the ropes and let them crack on with it. Really, I wouldn't want someone that was only able to hit a button for start and stop. That would worry me no end. But yeah, as you say, the AUVSI show and every show everywhere. That's what's popular. Well, did you see many in China, Patrick?
I did. It's primarily VTOL or hybrid or whatever. But you know, I think this comes back to really, you know, in regular aviation, when do aircraft make money? Then it's the same deal here, you know. The more time that you can spend in the air, the more time you can build for. You know? I'm not going to say that VTOL doesn't have a place. It's like, you know, having a toolbox. You know, I got hard to drive nails with a screwdriver. But you know, I think as it progresses, it's going to be another thing where it could stay in the air. Now, the aircraft that you guys have, are you selling that to other third parties? Because I actually saw something very similar, and the guy says, "Oh yeah, you know, we're making this, blah blah blah." So, are you making this for other third party people?
I'm making it. I'm making it for a specific customer, so I'm not pushing it. I'm in the business of just you give me a payload and a package that you want to get in the air, and you describe the mission, and I'll design an aircraft for you and get it built. That's what I've done every systems and everywhere else.
No, I'm kidding.
Everybody, I wear it out, but everybody thinks that it has to carry 3 bowling balls, fly for 10 hours, and run on a AA battery. So I'm always having to re-educate every customer on that.
Right. Well, I do think that, you know, people come up with stuff, and there's some different interesting ideas, like the or let's say hybrid VTOL thing. But I think we see in this industry, and I'm not quite sure, you know, maybe I don't follow other industries as well, but, oh, you know, here's this new thing, and then the whole herd kind of follows that, and everybody's making the same thing again. For, you know, one mission or a set of missions, and we're all going that way, and then something new will come along, and then, oh, you know, let's run that way with the herd. You know, I don't know.
Well, if you've got a platform that can fly, and there's I'm going to mention them, but the Believer, the Chinese thing, the Believer, it's electric, can fly between 3 and 4 hours, so it can go a long way, and I've seen it fly for that time. If your operator can't find somewhere to take off and land within your your footprint of 3 or 4 hours, that's what people say. Oh, it's great for confined areas. If you can't find a field or a bit of road with that much endurance within your target area, then you need to find another operator. But we have got VTOLs. They're called helicopters. They're the things that will, but just people are frightened of them, because I must admit I'm quite frightened of big RC helicopters. Those whopping big blades hooning around. So I do understand that. but yeah, some cyclical arguments time. I think the separate lift thrusts will have their place. Some VTOLs will have their place in their niche markets, but they'll be very, very small. Day-to-day jobs are going to be done by a model Cessna. You know what I mean? A high-wing trainer or a better one. Not quite a model Cessna, but really a lot of work's going to be done by that class of aircraft, I think, moving forward. But it's not trendy. It doesn't make Bruce can't make great renderings of it. It doesn't look fantastically sexy when you put it in the video. But that's life, isn't it? That's life. Now, what else was I gonna? Oh, I know. Yes, Euro control. 100 drone flights in controlled airspace a day by 2040. That's not a lot, is it? I say what we do with that is we build an entire UTM system based on a requirement. I say let's lock down all other airspace. That's what I thought it was very interesting that they only thought 100 flights per day by 2040, which is a long way out. And I thought the other thing that was interesting, they put a question mark. They put deliveries above the 400-foot. The current sort of, if you will, regulated space for day-to-day operations, and they also said there'll be pressure to increase that that height for lower airspace operations. So they are thinking ahead a bit. But do you want to unpack that one, Patrick, or think about it?
Yeah, no, I saw that and I posted it, and I posted it with the, is there a fly in the UTM ointment? And I've kind of, the NASA IG report came out, and I've been on for a while about how really the UTM, is this UTM needed? Where is it needed? What's the demand? And nobody can really answer these questions. Then I'm finding out that NASA is spending, it's going to be a total of $87.6 million on just the recommendations that they're going to give to the FAA, kicking the cat. And here's, the FAA didn't even really give them any requirements or, anything to go on. And we're going to spend all this money. We don't know what we're going to need and where we're going to need it. It doesn't, people were like, oh, well, we're not going to be in controlled airspace with the UTM. It's going to be in G, and it's not for IFR. Well, when the drone gets beyond visual line of sight or beyond the visual flight rules, what is that? That's something different. Certified? Did you have a detect and avoid system? Do we know what the baseline is? How does this work together? I'm watching the videos. It's like you have these drones flying over streets and populated areas. Is there any performance requirements, certification? No, you don't need any of that. Well, you let them fall out of the sky on the roads. It all sounds very half-baked or not very well thought out to me. There's like puzzle pieces missing here. I think we're all like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do what?
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's interesting that have a few flights by 2040. That's a wee way away now. We're getting very close to that. NASA, do you remember we used to joke about the 2047 model, the USAF thing, and everybody said what rubbish we're talking. It was still playing. You're still playing by that timeline, aren't you? I think you are still on that timeline.
Well, there still needs to be a lot of common sense brought into this, and there's a lot of pipe dream and a lot of vaporware. There needs to be some common sense brought into this, especially with the regulators.
Oh dear, you're going to fail as a company. You can't. I'm sorry, you're going to fail as a company. You cannot be in this industry operating with common sense. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to have to break it like this to you, but that's that. It's just you can't.
I'm giving up then.
Yeah, common sense.
Heavily now. Yeah.
I think you're hitting on what the problem is in this industry. Is you have, the common sense thing when you say that. It's like I was thinking about. I know a lot of talented people who aren't working that should be working, and then we seem to have a lot of people that have these pipe dreams that are working, and really what they're working on is getting investment, being in a place where they're seen as sexy, we're working on, oh, it's going to be great. We got all this, product and it's going to scale. What's going to scale? What are you scaling? It's even now here in the United States, oh, we've got the Commercial Drone Alliance wants to, we need to repeal 336 because, if we get rid of them, we won't have any problems anymore. Well, okay, if you look at the NASA thing, part of what they're building is a system that's going to accommodate that million Part 101E person that's going to fly near the airports. You throw that poor bastard under the Airbus, and then we're back down to the really low number of, let's say, potential users for the airspace who would need a UTM besides your Google and Amazon, who I'm convinced just want free infrastructure. Besides that, even the Lance thing, I keep asking that, hashtag drone question to the FAA. Hey, why not just do like you do with the 333 people and tell the droners, issue a blanket code that says, hey, go read the airport facilities map instead of rolling out this Lance thing that my estimation is window dressing to make it look like you're doing something. We talk about education, we talk about the aviation culture, but on the other hand, trying to dumb it down. It's like both sides of the face or something. It's really the common sense thing is kind of bugging me here.
Yeah, I know. And another time is rocking on here. And Bruce mentioned the common sense word. Obviously, we don't expect that of Bruce. AeroVironment are collaborating with NASA Jet Propulsion Lab to build the first drone, the Mars helicopter. I thought, well, that's nice for AV, but I quite wonder why they got the gig. Now, I think there's plenty of talented young individuals from, as we were talking about it before we started, the open pilot world as it was and stuff like that. There's plenty of engineers out there that would give that a good go. That was a lucky gig for AV, or am I being too hard?
Well, didn't Aurora, if memory serves me correctly, I thought Aurora Flight Sciences came up with a model, fixed wing model that had a folding tail. God, this has got to be, like maybe 10 years ago that was supposed to go to Mars or something. Anybody else remember that?
They were going to fly a wing, weren't they? It was going to be a wing soaring.
There was like a two boom tail that like folded back and but I mean, somebody else, they had a design that had won or something years ago.
They did, but it was a Paul McCready's group, which is, AeroVironment to begin with, that had something back then as well. I think it just comes down to the lobbyist, right? How good is your lobbyist?
Maybe, yeah. I don't quite understand how that would have worked, but I just thought it was quite interesting that they got hold of it, and I bet there's some youngsters out there now that would have a really good idea. But anyway, that was just an aside. And then the last one on my to-do list before I get Patrick to tell us all about China is Travis Air Force Base having the Intel, what are they called, those things, those light things, shooting stars. That's a bit interesting, isn't it? A big swarm at an Air Force base.
Yeah, that's not too far away from here. I don't know. It's cool, but I don't know. Well,
I mean, they're operating hundreds of aircraft, hundreds of UAS on a military site, and all those other good things. That's probably they're probably going to be launching more RPAS in that one formation than the U.S. Air Force can muster. No one's going to pull into that, but it's quite interesting. I think.
When people keep talking about these Intel swarms, I have to go back to remember Into Darkness.
Yeah.
Over London in 2013. I was impressed. You have Heathrow, Gatwick, London, Drone Swarm 2013 blew me away.
Well, that was you got to remember the thing that made that funny was that was the same week that the FAA said we've flown 2 RPAs at night in a danger area.
We're leading the way. Yeah, exactly.
That's what was amazing.
I know, and we're back
Meanwhile,
there.
in London, I think it was 35, wasn't it? Meanwhile, 35 make the Star Trek. It's, of course, it's the same aircraft. It's the same company. It's Aztec. It's just Intel bought them. So it is the same people, and they've moved on. So, yeah, they have been playing this game for a long time. But I can see the industrial applications of these swarms immediately. You get 6 of them in a box. They fly for 10 minutes each. There's an hour's work out of 6 10-minute quadcopters. You can see. I can see where it's going. I just thought the fact that it was flying from an Air Force base was interesting.
Yeah,
or not.
people they're oh, Intel. They got their drones. They're flying them up here at Folsom, and they're flying them all around. And it's kind of interesting. Okay, it's cool. But like I said, I was really impressed in 2013.
All right then. All right. Well, that leads us very nicely into what may or may not impress you. Take me down to the UAV city. So you've been in Shenzhen and you've seen what's going on. Patrick, go.
Okay, now they have those drone swarms in China too, and they had a whole bunch, and they did that. I think it was more, but whatever. Again, okay, that's one thing. Let me just China, okay, Shenzhen. People, this Silicon Valley notion that there's no money in hardware. I'm not too sure that that's correct. Let's say their economic output last year was more, Shenzhen was more than Hong Kong. There's 25 million people. It's you have to almost be there to experience what's going on there. It's a lot different than I thought. I thought it was going to be, this communist country where, it's kind of dark and dreary or whatever. It wasn't that way at all. These people, they're very friendly. A lot of people speak English. They're all about business. They want to make money, and they're marching ahead. And in the dronosphere or the drone ecosystem, they know that they are leaders. They know that's the Silicon Valley of drones, and they're very proud of it. And they should be. The UAV city thing. So, they have a press conference. Oh, you got to be at the press conference. Get over here and check this out. And they throw up the slides, which were part of the story. And they're just like, hey, we're building this new city for drones. And I'm sure they'll throw in some driverless cars or whatever else. But the scale of what they're trying to accomplish, yes, it's 10 billion Chinese dollars, which is about $1.5 billion US dollars. But, over here we talk about STEM education. We're going to have STEM. It's mainly lip service. The UAV city thing, they're thinking that will generate 10,000 aerospace STEM jobs. Now, that's putting your money where your mouth is, okay? The other thing I noticed from this program was, as one example, you have a gentleman that came over here to the United States, Chinese academic, came over here, was working with the USDA, remote sensing from manned aircraft and then into UAS, whatever. Goes back to China. He's working on other projects, also projects around the world, whatever else. Long story short, now we have American or U.S. government officials going over there to learn from them. So what we've effectively done in this country is basically say, hey, look, we came up with some really nice technology and applications. Here you go. Have that. Have fun. And it's very frustrating as let's say, a U.S. citizen to come back and go, we've basically not even really floundered for the last 10 years and gave away whatever lead in applications that we had. That's really the sad takeaway from the China thing.
Well, didn't you sort of, wasn't ITAR really the thing that helped make that happen? Because that really shot, even the ideas and concepts were bound by ITAR, and that's just stopped American companies being able to sell stuff overseas.
Well, I think it was a combination of things, and ITAR was one of them. And again, when I talk about like advocacy for government advocacy for the industry, if you had an advocacy group that was worth its salt, they would have advocated for ITAR reforms. Because now you have a situation where the Chinese have UCAS and it's cash and carry.
Yeah. It's too late. I know you're trying to adjust ITAR now, but it kind of the horse is bolted. Gate opened 10 years ago, and
well, now you're trying to sell 10-year-old technology overseas for 10 times what the Chinese are selling it for. You're done. And the other thing that really, and this may be an American arrogance thing or whatever, and we're still 3 years ahead of the Chinese or whatever. It's like, I don't know about that. And then even our government 10 years ago, and Gary, you remember this when I was talking about the $1,000 Chinese UAV, they were, that was at NASA Ames with DOD, DOJ, NOAA, NASA, all of these federal groups, and they actually tried to laugh me out of the room and say the Chinese will never ever be able to produce anything as sophisticated as an unmanned aircraft system. And I just was like, well, you're wrong. And so I think there was that. I also believe that the ITAR not being advocated for, and 3, the regulatory just debacle. It's to the point where anyone, I was talking about intellectual honesty, and that really pissed people off, and I've moved on to the objective reality thing to kind of soften the blow. But anybody who can, with a straight face, say that, really we're concerned about safety of the NAS, and that the FAA has got to go slow and baby steps and crawl, walk, run. I'm almost at the point where you're either in denial or delusional, because it's been 20 some odd years. There's no data from the FAA. They have no, what I would call scientific data to talk about risks and or anything else. And they're like, oh well, we got to worry about the safety of the NAS. It's all going on out there. There's no enforcement. When you guys are talking about the FCC and the bandwidth and all the rest of it, where do you think these people are all flying? Where's this going on? Do you think they're getting their waivers to fly? No, they're just doing whatever they want to do, wherever they want to do it. The FAA is not enforcing it. And then people say, well, we never expected the FAA to enforce any of these rules. Why have rules? Why even have law? What do you like? You feel good about it. You wake up in the morning. Well, my career, 10 years of making rules that nobody pays attention to, was great. So,
yeah.
And as we move on with the UAS IPP thing, right? So now drone delivery is coming. And, I think San Diego was the one that let the cat out of the bag. We're going to do drone delivery here. Okay, you're going to do drone delivery there. So what's going to happen?
I think you would have. Yeah, I was just going to jump in and just. We already have laws on the books. We have personal injury laws on the books. We have damage to property laws on the books that can be handled at the local law enforcement levels. You can create an omnibus of laws that, but if they're not enforced, like you say, and we're agreeing with you,
or unenforceable,
Exactly. You don't have the manpower to enforce it.
I think this is the downside of the administrative state. You build this bureaucracy. They have a business to build. They got to look like they're doing something. But it's like, out in the country, the ag thing, like the 137 and the spraying with the drones. They've got all kinds of farm drones in China. Some of them have the 50 spray equipment on it. Some of them, which we're going to see here, and we'll talk to more people, have new spray equipment that you can adjust the droplet and the flow, with the cell phone app. Some real advancements. But how come we're not flying this out in the country? You can do the math to say, okay, well, I'm out here. I'm 20 miles from town. This thing has a range of 5 miles or whatever, so we know it's not going to get to town. There's really no air traffic here. What are the risks? And you can actually do the science and say we could do this today. It seems to me, and I don't have the science to back up my assertions, but it just seems to me that this country is developed enough that we could do the math to figure out what's safe and what's not. So what is it? Is it a lack of money? If you're going to spend $90 million over at NASA and you're going to spend, $100 million for several years of work from the UASIO, I can't see where they can't peel off a few bucks for a little research. That's why it's not plausible anymore.
I think anyone involved in these things ought to let anybody with less than 200 hours of RPAS flying time be on any of the committees. Unless you've actually worked and used and done, then how can you possibly know what capabilities are and all that? But that's of course that's in a utopian world, isn't it? I don't remember that time when you and I went to Farnborough a few years ago. The man that jumped out of a Spitfire that landed was the man from the Civil Aviation Authority that was in charge of RPAS. He wouldn't, and he flew a Spitfire into Farnborough, and he used to be a fairly big rogue in the air show circuit in the UK and was known for it. So the regulator got him on board because it's like a poacher turned gamekeeper, isn't it? So it's you get the rogue on board and he knows all the dodges. How about drone delivery? Yes. The Dave Merck Productions, I think that's exactly how drone deliveries will be. It will be vehicles. It won't be airborne, because the vehicle will go in a howling gale when it's pouring with rain, and then what you've got to be able to beat, of course, is you've got to be able to beat a spotty youth on minimum wage driving a van. So it's all very well having $1 million autonomous vehicle come, but the spotty youth in the van is much cheaper.
Well, if you can get the taxpayer to pay for the infrastructure, someone else, and I don't know if you remember that last year during the expo, during my presentation, I said I thought that the estimate for UTM systems is probably going to be like $400 million to $500 million. Okay, somebody else came out and said $400 million. So if you can get the taxpayer to pay for all that for you, you might be able to get it down to the dollar last mile delivery. If you have to build your own system, I don't think that's going to work. But the other thing with these committees, they're going to reconstitute the DAC, and I've got the names for that. I was working on a little story about that. But anyway, the idea is you want to get more partners on there, and it's usually more partners that don't know what they're talking about. And it seems to kind of cloud or muddy the waters even more, and then you could justify not getting anything done for another 10 years by saying, well, we have to listen to everyone's opinion. If I need an operation, I don't want to hear from the guy that's, the car mechanic, about my brain tumor. So I don't think it's really relevant, but I think it's a way to put a brake on the wheel. And I really think we're coming to the end of the road on the, safety of the NAS and the plausibility that we just haven't got this figured out yet.
I can see it as part of a modern air traffic system. I can see it's just, unfortunately, I think the rush is to get poorly thought out systems with very badly laid out airspace and very dodgy data to the highest bidder out there as fast as possible, so that aviation regulators can say, oh no, we have addressed this problem, we bought in this service. And they're not rushing to do their due diligence about the various services that are out there. But I can see I can see air traffic has to change, and how messages got around. Things have got to change, but that's part of just change. And general aviation's got to come to the party. You had a terrible accident at a fly-in over there 2 weekends ago where a low-wing aircraft landed on top of a high-wing one. That was 2 weeks ago. Fatalities. Manned aviation's got to come to the safety party as well. So far, this industry is much safer than general aviation.
I agree. There has to be, we're back to the common sense thing, and if common sense were really that common, everyone would have it, right? But In one of my past lives, I was a dynamiter on a helicopter crew in the Rocky Mountains, and I used to laugh at the people that would complain about we're logging too many trees. Well, I have flown over millions and millions and millions of acres of trees, of dense forests, and you know, there's so much of the United States in particular is wide open space where I don't even know why we need 3/4 of the restrictions that we have, because there really is no traffic out there. I mean, there's some really desolate. We live in the middle of the Arizona desert here, and it's pretty desolate. And
well, let me ask you about the Arizona desert. You know, I did some work down there in the Yuma sector. And, you know, oh yeah, it's bring a hat. It's hot out. But you know, as this other story just surfaced again, where the cartels are using drones to bring drugs in and spot for trafficking and all the rest of that. So I worked at a place down there in Dateland. You know where Dateland is by chance?
Oh yes. Yeah,
and they remember they had that it was like a B-29 base or something down there with the 3 huge runways. And the cartels were using those to bring ultralights in with drugs and everything. Now, are they paying attention to the airspace rules?
They run regular scheduled stops there. You can set your clock to it.
Exactly. So, you know, when we were, you know, I was working for the military at the time, and when we were working there, border customs and border patrol were like, man, we don't know what happened, but the activity in this sector dropped off to 0. You know. So probably because we were doing stuff there. But anyway, you know, there's a lot of people that aren't paying attention to the rules. And one other thing, you know, Gary, you mentioned general aviation, and general aviation in the United States is on the decline. Years ago, there was a lot more flights. There was a lot more action. But, you know, that's starting to, the hockey stick is going in the other direction. And there's definitely not as much traffic or let's say that's not as growing as it is, where the unmanned aircraft thing is, and it is safer because you're taking the pilot out of the thing. But that's what I say. The anecdotal evidence is starting to show that they might have just been doing the henny penny routine.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, we can say as a group, there's more of us than them. The sky belongs to us, and the hashtag that I like using, because it's all about safety. And I am a general aviation pilot, but if we say no GA below 2K, let's get them all above 2,000 feet. When they have an engine problem, they've got longer to think about it. They show up on primary radar. ADS-B will work a lot better. Let's make it a lot safer for them. I'm only thinking about them. So let's get them up there. And then I know Bruce will say that one of his guys there says that, but what about if the weather's bad? And, you know, they have to fly at low level, then we're helping them again because we're stopping them flying in that bad weather. So it's safety all the way from the RPAS community to general aviation. We'll do whatever we can to help make it safer for them.
Yeah, well, you know, this is where people go, you know, that Gary is a really nice guy. You know, he's a really nice guy.
Exactly. That's all about safety and love, man.
I know, exactly. But anytime I see the hashtag no GA below 2K, I go, oh, there's Gary being a jerk again. Yeah. Because the thing is with the general aviation community is they don't want any restrictions on what they're doing. You know, we'll put them all off on somebody else. We'll put all the cost off on somebody else. I think that we need to, I see the NAS as a natural resource, and I've always kind of seen it that way. And I think that some people lose sight of that. And I do think that even the regulators, and this is one other thing in China, talking to civil aviation people from around the world, you know, these, I think everybody bought into the hype that it was going to be $80 gazillion or $1 billion or whatever. And their reach exceeded their grasp. And you know, the FAA navigable airspace is between the blades of grass. They're down to registering and regulating 250-gram toys from the mall, and they've increased the area from around the airports from 3 miles to 5 miles. So you've added this extra burden to your workload. And then you've coming back and you went and you grabbed everything. And then you're going to come back and go, well, we don't have the manpower to enforce this.
Yeah. Well, Bruce is saying in the comments, is just saying, why not lift the minimum for GA to 800 feet? Well, I think that's what the Europeans, they're beginning to say, well, maybe it has to be 1,000 feet, you know, because there is demand. So I'm just saying 2,000 feet seems a lot easier to me. Let's have RPAS up to 1,000 feet and then give us ourselves 1,000 foot cushion to general aviation. So RPAS to 1,000 and then 1,000 to 2,000 feet, you know, little buffer to, or maybe 1,500 feet. We'll give them some leeway.
You know, I like
the population density. I apologize, Patrick. The population density, you know, UTM could probably work in the cities because you're not going to get GPS signals in a city when you got buildings and so on. It's like, oh my God, exactly.
So,
you know, so UTM could probably work in some type of mesh network, you know, where you're feeding the GPS info, you know, as a layer within the UTM, but it's really not necessary in the vast areas of.
That was my point earlier. There's literally millions and millions of acres of unpopulated places with relatively zero traffic.
And many of us are GA pilots, so we're very cautious and leery of our RPAS or UAV operations around other aircraft. I mean, when we're out in the field, I monitor the local Unicom or the local tower just to be aware of what traffic's in my area.
Yeah,
well, that
I think
terrible. Sorry, that to butt in, but that terrible accident that I was talking about, they were both on the Unicom, but they were misreporting themselves around the circuit, and they were unaware of where they were, and it's just terrible. It's just such a sorry, going off topic a bit there, but a terrible way to have to go. So the general aviation does need to catch up a little bit. It's not hard for the RPAS world to detect, sense, and avoid, get out of the way of ADS-B equipped aircraft. It's not hard. Vision-based stuff is coming. This isn't you know, $1 million stuff to make it happen. It's simple stuff. So GA is holding back the industry. Was it the Compass? Yes, it was. That was it, Bruce. Yes, it was.
Yeah, but I have to agree, though. What you guys are espousing there is the aviation culture. I don't think you need to dumb down UAS as much as they're trying to. I think you need to build an aviation culture into it. Think about safety. Think about other people. Think about the other users in the NAS, and I think that would go a lot further. The other comment that I want to make is people like you are not on the committees, and that's one of my solutions. People go, "Oh, the guy doesn't have any solutions." No, I got solutions. You put 5 to 10 people that know what they're talking about on one of these committees, and you give them 6 months to a year to come up with standards. And that's it. And you get rid of all the other people, the 200 people that you have in there that know. When I listen to these people talk, you're like, what? Why are they even here? They don't even know what they're talking about. And that's another reason I think this thing drags on. You have people that know what they're talking about that are actual users. I think you could speed things up and make things really quick because you know what's out there. You've been operating, your GA people, whatever. You know what the real world's like. That's that's what needs to be done. That's what needs to be implemented.
For goodness sake, don't say common sense again. We can't have that phrase in this again.
It's not even common sense. It's just that it's a culture that we know works.
Sure, but then any successful business that I don't know, let's have a motorbike outdoor or horse riding company or something like that. You know, you've got to have a safety culture, otherwise your accidents go through the roof, and then you don't have your horse riding company anymore. So anybody doing anything that carries any petrol, we need a 3D rendering of an AI blockchain common sense. Yes, we do, XJ. You can make that, Bruce. Yes, that's what we need. Again, on the wireless today, how did somebody mention AI blockchain and drones? I can't even remember what it was, but somebody made the perfect trifecta of of all the buzzwords that we needed. They were all in one sentence. It was amazing. Oh my Lord, look at the time. Look at the time. It's gone 15:15. So I tell you what, but because it's gone 15:15, an hour and a quarter we've been going, I'm going to ask, has anybody else got anything else that they've seen this week that's caught their eye before we depart? Going once.
Nothing we can talk about.
We will say we're fans of the show, and
Yeah.
we do watch it a lot, and it's very informative. The guests are informative. We love Patrick, and
Yeah. We miss you, Bruce.
we miss Bruce. And
Bruce is saying a drone crashes into French nuclear station. Oh, best
But
I
that was
Google
on
that.
It is in the news.
But I'm hearing that was on purpose, though.
Yes.
When I was
So-
pull up a sandbag here, pull up a sandbag while I try and get this going. When I was Greenpeace activist crashed Superman drone into was that a drone or was that an so it's an RC Superman, isn't it? Greenpeace did it. Well, it's not kryptonite, so it should have been all right, shouldn't it? Yeah, that's going to cause issues, isn't it? And was it a drone? That's the argument. It wasn't, was it? It was a model aeroplane.
Well, I think that line is being blurred for convenience because, again, okay, so here in the United States, if we're going to talk 336 and we're going to talk about, let's say a hobbyist, I don't think that there's any community-based guidelines that say go fly your model aircraft into a nuclear power plant. I doubt you're going to find that in the safety.
I haven't found it.
Right.
Model
So
airplane.
my thing with it is you're throwing a whole class of people under the bus. It's kind of like the low-hanging scapegoat,
Yeah.
It's these hobby people. Well, it's not hobby people. It's the Greenpeace people in this instance, So why should they pay the freight on this? I think they're just looking for somebody they can blame so they can say we can move this industry forward without any data.
It's not a headline if you say model aeroplane hits nuclear power station, is it? It's not a headline. But my story that relates to this slightly is many years ago, before I had a beard and I was working for the Queen, we used to send an aircraft up first thing in the morning to check the weather. And whilst it was flying around doing its thing, we used to have a breakfast television on, a cup of coffee, and perhaps some toasted sandwiches. And I was watching breakfast television, and they were at a nuclear power station on the River Severn in the UK. And the topic was, what if a fast jet were to hit our nuclear power station? And it was very serious indeed. And I kid you not, as I went to a piece of camera, our weather check went past the background of the presenter. And I alone knew exactly which aircraft that was. And I think, yes, I don't think I told anybody, but yes, the BBC must have delighted in that, but in the back of the shot. And they said, well, that would have hurt, or something like that. So I've got an almost story for that. I think, well, what's going to happen with this Greenpeace thing? It was to highlight lack of security. Well, how would they stop that? Because any of the there's plenty of ways of stopping. Well, how would you stop it? RF, I suppose. Something for the so we better have the CUAS guys on next week to find out.
Or maybe
maybe
they can dull and grind down their kitchen knives.
Yes, maybe, but.
Well, I mean, that's why I'm a proponent of the counter UAS thing, really more than even these large blanket things that they can't enforce and no one's going to pay attention to. I really think that the solutions need to be, it's kind of incumbent on the facility, let's say manager or the person that's in charge. I have a nuclear power plant. I'm going to have as much counter UAS stuff as I can have. It'd be great to have, some sort of SAM site. So if jet comes by, I can shoot it down before it gets to my, you know what I'm saying. But that's why I'm a responsible counter UAS guy. It's going to be up to them to decide how much protection they want to buy, purchase, lease, whatever. And they're going to have to decide for every application. Much better than blanket, no-fly zones that nobody's going to enforce.
Well, as Bruce says, just put a sign up saying no drawings. Of course, that's right. And Superman would have read it. I wouldn't even one of those foam Superman. I mean, that's hardly a fast moving target coming in. You could probably have got a catapult to that and and got rid of it if anyone was paying attention. Yeah, they're saying that, there's been no security. Of course, you've always been able to fly an aeroplane into one of those places. That's well, it's yeah. But yeah, I think this story will die down pretty quickly. I don't think this has legs really. But anyway,
there was one other story I wanted to talk about if I could. Did you see?
Right, then.
Okay, well, I mean, there was just somebody, they put like some sort of GPS tracker on a goose in Eastern Europe, and it flew to Africa or the Middle East. Did you see that? Somebody took the SIM chip out of the goose's GPS thing and then put it in their cell phone and were calling all around the world. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, there's some amazing bird tracking stuff out there, but you'd have to pull up a sandbag and get very, very boring about it. The best ones are the ones that measure the angle of the sun. But anyway, that's very boring altogether. It's very, very boring because tracking stuff is, of course, is something we do. It is amazing how far animals go. Right then. Well, with that, I think we shall draw a line under this. Thank you very, very much. The fellows from Delta Z. I will put a live link in the show notes afterwards. And I'm sure people will be very interested in your long distance, low latency video and C2 link systems. And I should have pressed you more. It's a pity Bruce wasn't here because he would have pressed you more and sensibly about that propeller. But well done on getting that work out there in the Google projects.
We can do it again. We'd be happy
to. Absolutely. No, thank you very, very much for coming. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And I can't. Just a shame I can't say the same for Patrick, but there we are. Yes, it's the way it is. But we're looking forward to hearing more. Hopefully, we'll have some more articles about your trip to China in SES News coming up in the next few days, and you can unpack it all a little bit more once the dust is settled.
Still readjusting to the the jet lag thing, but I do have some other stuff, articles in the hopper that I've been trying to get out, but we'll see what happens.
Super cool. All right. Well, thank you very much, dear viewer, wherever you are in the world. I know you're spread all over the world. Get well soon, Bruce. I hope that flu disappears. I saw your cold day old men not really flying video earlier in the week. Yeah, dear viewer, I look forward to seeing you again 2100 GMT next Tuesday. Have a very safe rest of the week. Oh, happy 4th of July to you American fellows. I'm not sure what that's all about. I think it's probably overrated. Have a lovely holiday tomorrow. And if you're flying, safe flying wherever you're doing, and have a lovely weekend. All. Cheers for now. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.